the LearnRHEL YouTube channel, the channel dedicated to supporting users that want to learn about the Red Hat Enterprise Linux variants such as Alma Linux, Rocky Linux, and of course Red Hat or even CentOS. Now, the video is going to be about the topic of AIDE, AIDE. That's the Advanced Intrusion Detection Environment. What that does is allows you to basically set up a database keeping track of a given set of files and directories and all of the attributes about them, their ownership, their user ownership, their group ownership, their ACL permissions if they have any or if they've been changed, the extended attributes, file sizes, inodes, just a whole bunch of things. So let me go ahead and do a quick man. Actually, let's start off with the most important thing. Let's see if AIDE is installed. So we're going to do this again. I'm logged in as W French on my machine dedicated to making these videos. I'm going to do a DNF. You could do a yum. Either way. Then do install, list, pipe, egrep, -I for making it case insensitive, AIDE, A-I-D-E. Should get prompted for my password. I did. Put on my password, and it'll take a moment. And here we get the response. So I do have AIDE installed. Came from the AppStream repository, and this is particularly the version that I'm running. Now, it makes sense to maybe take a look and see if we can update to the latest version of AIDE in case there's any bugs or security concerns. So let's go ahead and do that. Sudo yum update. And we can target the very specific package like that, and then let it pull in its dependencies if there are any. So let's see if there are any. And prompt me for my password again. And it's checking, and it found nothing. So it didn't find any new versions of AIDE or its dependency packages. So we're actually running at the latest version. Good. So I'm going to do a very important step here that anybody learning Linux should learn how to do. Run the man command against the topic you want to learn about. In this case, we're going to do a man on AIDE, A-I-D-E. This is basically the AIDE command, the binary that lets you do other things. So if you look here, AIDE is actually an acronym standing for Advanced Intrusion Detection Environment. And you can run AIDE, a whole bunch of parameters, and the subcommand. These are the subcommands. That's what command here means. It really means subcommand. You're going to have to be aware of the fact that you have to have a basic configuration and then a database that has already captured the state of the system so that you can capture the future state of the system and see if there have been any changes at all. So this video is going to be really quick about teaching about the man page of this, letting you go through and see here are all your options and your parameters you can do. This is not going to be a very complex, complicated video, okay? And then what we're going to do is take a look at the configuration file for AIDE. So we can go over to /etc. We'll do a ls-l AIDE, and that's the only file on there with AIDE. So do that, and we get the file back. We can do a less, because we don't really want to directly manipulate the file. Don't want to have any accidents and break AIDE for ourselves. And I'm not doing this as high enough escalated privilege because these three bits here are controlled by the owner of root. So let's do a sudo less /etc/aide.conf period. There we go. That's a AIDE period CONF. Get prompted for the password again. And here we are. So we have some variables being set up in AIDE. The db.dir, basically the location of where the database that AIDE is going to use to compare before and after results of files. Where is the log output going to be placed once the system is compared after the initial setting has been captured? Pay attention to the system maybe once a week or once a day, once an hour. once a day is pretty aggressive actually, but once an hour um, is really stupid aggressive unless you're doing some testing. All right, so basically what this means is that this is setting up the variable called logdir to be associated with the path of var log aid. The database file is actually going to be aide.db.gz that it uses. Hence, you can see this variable is being set, and this therefore would be a substitution of var live aid slash aide.db.gz. Now, if you're creating a new database, it's going to use this database underscore out parameter. It's going to be a file. It's going to be the actual dbdir var live aid slash aid.db.new.gz. Pay attention to that. That's new.gz, and that's without the new.gz. Very important lesson to learn right now. If you want to gzip it, which most people do, you would go ahead and say yes there. The verbosity of how much level, I've never messed with that. Something you can learn on your own. Report URL basically says, hey, where do I send my output to? It's going to use the logdir, and then it's going to combine that logdir variable with the aid.log output file name. And then here we go down here. These are the kind of rules that are being monitored against all the different files and directories. You got your permissions, you got the inode value, the number of links to the file, the user that owns it, the group that owns it, the size of the file, block count, which is really proportionate to size, really, the modification time, the access time, the change time, which is not the same as modification time, check for growing size, and then your ACL is basically spelling it out here, access control list, SE Linux for SE Linux security context, and so on. The most common checksum being used is going to be the SHA-512 checksum nowadays. Get down here, and you'll see some other rules that are set up. And then you'll see, oh, all extra hashes is kind of like a rule set. So when you use all extra hashes as an answer further down in the syntax, like way down here, like in an area like here, then you'll be getting the SHA-1, the RMD160, the SHA-256, the SHA-512, and the Tiger hashes. And then everything, well, you can see R, all extra hashes, which is made up of this, ACLs, and extended attributes. I'm basically just reading out to you so you can see what's going on. The normal stuff basically just uses this. Directories will be getting that. So basically, we'll set directories to use dir, and you might use other files to use normal, maybe other files to use perms, and then just take a look, content X, right? So as we go down, /boot directory is going to have content X. And there's no $sign there. There's a reason why I'm saying this. /opt, no $sign there, just looking at content. So these two directories were pointed out specifically to use these particular rule sets. Root and everything underneath it is going to use perms. And again, root content X. Do not look at user source. Do not look at user temp. You can see that. These are too volatile. There's no reference to temp. Okay. User content X. And then Etsy host $sign, meaning look at just this as a pattern, and it ends after the, right there at the letter S for host. The $sign means end of string. Host.conf, end of string. Host name, end of string. Issue, end of string. So on and so forth. So all of these are obviously files, except for like Etsy sysconfig is a directory. Etsy alternatives is a directory. That's why there's no $sign in the end, right? So you keep on going down through. You can peruse this file for yourself. Let's get back to the rest of this content of this video. And the idea is now, the idea with aid is being able to take a snapshot and then later on in life take another snapshot, compare the older snapshot against the newer snapshot against the older snapshot, and find out what are the differences. What has happened since the first time you took a snapshot? And it will tell you this file has been deleted, that file has been changed, this file has been added to a directory, so on and so forth. Okay, so we've taken a look at the aid.conf file, but now we got to go and find the aide.db.gz file that should exist. And if we remember correctly, by doing the sudo less on /etsy/aid.conf, Prompt it for the password again. We got to go looking for the aide.db.gz under the db dir, which is var lib aide. Okay, and there's also the aide.db.new.gz, which is going to go into the same directory. So let's go find that var lib. Go to the aide directory. Oops, I don't have permission. So this is one of those times we probably want to do a sudo up, type in our password for sudo, cd over to etc, var lib, I cannot type today, lib aide, that's the directory. And if you notice, I do ls-l and there's nothing in here. Well, that's because when you install aide, there's nothing in there by default. When the machine is built and aide is already part of the baseline, it doesn't have an aide database to begin with. So you have to go out of your way and create the aide database and make sure it's got the right file name in this directory. So how do we do that? Well, let's do a man on aide. And the idea is you have to do the check after you have something to check. But how do you know what to check? Well, you have to have a database, and that's how you initialize the database. So you could do aide --init, which is my favorite way of doing it, or aide space -i. I like doing --init because it kind of helps me remember what the -i command was for, which, becomes kind of superfluous. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Aide --init, and depending on how many files you have on your operating system and on your file systems accessible from the aide command, it could take maybe 2 minutes, or it could take up to 25 minutes. It could take quite a while. So here we're going to go ahead and fire this off. And all of the stuff is being basically checked and baselined. We're actually capturing a baseline. Let this whole process complete. And the idea is that when the prompt comes back, we should be able to take a look at the aide database file that was created. The first one that's created at this moment will be the var lib aide.b.new.gz. But if you have a cron job that executes the aide with a -- check or the aide -C, then it will be comparing the files now against what the data set is being captured that we see on the screen here. And you'll see the differences, what has happened between the two moments the system has existed. So right now what we're doing is generating the aide database, but all of this stuff that you see on the screen right here is being accounted for in the aide database. Quite a bit. And you can see this process takes a little while, so we're going to go ahead and let it run. Now, as I said at the very beginning of this video, this is really about working with aide in terms of getting an aide database generated. In order for you to learn about the output of aide, I'm going to have to give my system at least a couple of days so I can deliberately make changes and delete files and add files and so on and so forth, and then make another video so you can see the differences. But at the completion of this command, it timestamped the aide database. It tells you even which version of aide, by the way, it was running with. It creates the aide database file, which is this aide.db.new.gz file. And this is a problem. If we were to set up a cron job to run with the aide -- check, it would be looking for aide.db.gz, not with new in it. So, hey, as system administrators, we have to be responsible and rename this file to have it without the string of new in there. Okay, So I'm going to do ls minus l. You can see the file exists, but I got to take that file and I have to rename it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this guy, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm just going to simply get rid of the .new and just simply rename it to aide.db.gz. All right, so I have new mail. I don't know that var spool is necessarily in the aide database for being tracked, because a lot of emails go in there if you have a system set up to generally message yourself. But let's do this. Let's run the aide -- check command. And this is kind of weird. I usually don't expect all this kind of an output. I don't know if this is new due to RHEL 8 or if this is something weird about the time on my system. My Windows time down here in the bottom right corner of my physical machine says it's 2:25 p.m. And my virtual machine, which is what we're running with, all of this is actually running in a virtual machine, says it's also 2:25, but I'm not sure about the A time in future. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Okay, so what we're seeing essentially is the equivalent to a report, but it's happening directly to screen. And after this completes, the idea is we're going to hopefully have a report back telling us, hey, you had all these files with some changes. This file had some actual code changes or content changes, and so on and so forth. So let's see what this does. Hopefully it will complete here, and this won't be a total waste of your time in terms of just hearing my voice drone on. I don't know if you can hear, but there's kids in the background. I'm at home taking a day off from work, and there's kids. I guess they're kind of having fun because school is out this week because it's the week before Easter. So the kids are out on Easter break here in my neighborhood. All right, so I kind of expected this because we had just generated the A database and I didn't generate any new files, didn't modify any existing files, and didn't delete any existing files. There's no change in state. So basically what I need to do is, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to wait a couple of days, make sure that the cron job is running. Actually, that's something I can show you. Now that we have the aide database generated, there was no output to be concerned about. So let's go back to the etc directory as root. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a vim on crontab the file. And here you can see that at 5 a.m., user sbin aide with the -- check is going to run. And then it's going to pipe over the output to mail and send it to root on the local host, which is on this machine. And if you've seen my videos about how to run with the mail command, that'll be very helpful to you to learn how to get access to this mailbox right here. And you'll be looking for basically an email message that has this host name with space hyphen space aide integrity check in the subject field. Okay, so yep, we are actually ready to go ahead and shut down this video, and you will be able to see another video, hopefully in rapid sequence right after this one. When I get this video deployed, I will put the second video up in the mini series or the sub series or whatever on the aide database, basically use. Okay, so thank you for your time, and I hope we'll see you back soon.